Welcome, everybody.
I'm Todd Medina.
And I'm Maria Lomali.
There we go.
And I'm Scott Ware.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Sology in Sedona in collaboration with Vibrational Empowerment Network, which you can find at vibrationalempowerment.net. We're live on several platforms, including on the Sology platform, Sology One Studios Facebook page. We've had a lot of interest in the broadcast we've been doing from this portal. We've had a lot of really incredible, a wide variety of guests and expressions. So today we have like three different things to present in one. So we have a beautiful divine couple who have an incredible story. We've got two individuals who have their own incredible story, and we also have the presence of Scott Ware, the publisher of Radiance magazine, and who's really been doing a great job with that, which we have had him on the show, and we've talked about it a little bit. But let me just welcome Maria Lomale. I said it wrong.
Yes, you said it right.
And Scott Ware.
Thank you.
And yeah, welcome to Sedona. We had a great dinner last night. They were kind enough to buy us a pizza, and it was very cool.
It was fun.
I particularly
with Morgan.
Yeah, with the unicorn.
Yep.
With the very.
She was spotted in the wild.
Right, rarely sighted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you guys drove up, and that's cool.
Always.
Where we want to start? We talked about it last night.
Yeah. Well.
And this is where I'm at a disadvantage because normally I don't talk to anybody before I go on a show with them, so it can be fresh and spontaneous. But there was so much stuff that y'all talked about last night, and I don't even know where to start. I mean, the story about your sister was amazing. Y'all's story was amazing, and maybe that's where you start. You guys knew each other for like a year or something like that, and then
we did.
Y'all went to a Vision Quest party, a psychedelic mushroom party, and but you had already known each other. There wasn't anything romantic. There wasn't anything in either one of your minds about I want to bust the move on the other one. None of that happened. And so you're in the middle of this ceremony, because it is a ceremony. It's not party time.
Right.
And I think you said your backs were to each other, or your back was to him. And I think you started it, and I'll let you finish.
Sure.
You started it with, you heard a voice that said, "Go and kiss Maria."
Something like that. Yeah. It first, the three of us that were participating in this ceremony were as we were coming down off of all the visions we'd had, and I had a miraculous vision. There was a lot of talk about what we were doing and it turns out, speaking for myself, I was in a relationship that where the agreement had really ended. And it was a little hard for me to see that for a long time. And I remember lying there on the yoga mat looking up at the ceiling, and the ceiling had disappeared, and there were cords running through time and space. And on those cords were hanging those pointy Christmas ornaments. And I'm thinking, okay, I get that each one of these ornaments represents a choice in life. And I remember wishing that staying in a relationship or going, I remember wishing that my ex could see that these were choices. And I clearly saw that it was a choice. Later in the conversation, a friend of hers who was there in the ceremony with us said, after she heard me talking about this, he said, "You know what, it's very clear that it's over." And I remember being very angry for about 10 seconds until I realized she was right. I'd known it for a long time, but unconsciously. And in that moment, I released it. The next day, I was sitting in my room. My ex knocked and came in, and it went to what used to be our room, but we'd been in separate rooms for some time. And she knew that something energetically had happened the day before. I didn't fill her in. I just said it was like a healing session, and I didn't know how and when it was going to happen, but it happened in this moment because she said, "You remember when you told me that I should bring something into this room that's mine, so it's not just your room?" I said, "Well, yeah, I used to say that a lot a long time ago." And guess what she was holding in her hand? I told you last night, she was holding a pointy Christmas ornament. And I had not shared pointy Christmas ornaments with the vision.
This was after the ceremony.
After the ceremony the next day.
Yeah.
And I was staring at it. And she said, "What's wrong?" And I said, "Come in, close the door, sit down. I want to share what happened yesterday in its entirety." And 15 minutes later, we agreed that indeed the relationship had come to an end after 25 plus years, and
Wow.
and that was that.
So back to the ceremony, you heard "Go Kiss Maria." You approached Maria, or did you get something before that happened?
Yes. So I was facilitating. I was supposed to facilitate the session, but I was totally not able to do that. So I didn't realize at the beginning that this was for me as well. I wasn't going to be able to facilitate the way I usually do. So I was completely out of my body and taken to the space where I was informed. There was like a council in front of me, and they informed me that the first part of my life that was dedicated to family, to raising children, that was complete, and that now I was going to start a new phase. And in this new phase, I was going to be with Scott. And it was being told to me so matter of fact, where Scott and I didn't even have any connection like that. So even though it sounded very clear and it made sense, and when I was there and being informed by this council, it freaked me out, and I was in fetal position with my back towards Scott.
I didn't know any of this was going on with her. I just recognized this body language is odd. I thought she was supposed to be helping me out here. Okay. So that was interesting.
Right. So then when I was informed that, and I kept sort of like questioning, how is this, what?
Right.
Then I heard Scott and my friend talking about his relationship, and I was just kind of listening to them and then going back and forth and hearing the counsel. So when he came over to give me the kiss, it didn't surprise me. And even though a part of me was like, no, let's not do this, there was another part of me that knew better, because I had already been receiving this other information. And I knew it was important for me to take that next step.
I didn't know any of this was taking place with her. All I know is at a certain moment, it's a handful of times I've heard something like this that's been so clear, like Start the Magazine, and this was one of them, which was tell her you're going to go over there and kiss her. And I did not want to say or do that, but it was so compelling, and I realized that, I mean, it's going to be her, if she wants to do it. And so I said that. She said, "Oh my God, oh no." And I'm like, "Oh, I heard a no in there, but okay." I went over and I sat down. Nora's right there. I waited 3 or 4 seconds, and she looked up, and we kissed, and activations happened like I was energized. She was. It changed everything, and we've been inseparable ever since.
So before that happened, you heard "Oh no, no"?
I told him when he came over to kiss me, I said, "No. Oh my God, no."
Oh my God, no.
But did he say, "I want to kiss you"?
Yeah.
Oh, and then you said no.
Then she said that. I sat down. I waited just 3 or 4 seconds. She looked up to kiss me, and we did.
And it was instant. It was instant that we became aware of our connection. And there was this profound love that we felt instantly.
Instantly. It was divinely orchestrated, and we've gotten confirmations ever since then, almost daily, which has been helpful. I mean, because this doesn't happen. In fact, telling the story, it's a little, okay, I know how that kind of sounds, but in that context, it was perfect. And we had, so here we are on your show talking about us as a sacred union couple, although I don't know if we want to put that label on, but ever since then, she's of course been a huge impact on Radiance. In fact, I'll just hold it up for people who don't know. Radiance Magazine at over 600 locations in Southern California, online, and who's that?
Who is it?
Todd Medina.
Oh, really?
Little situation there with Todd, showing all these tons of people you've interviewed.
How cool is that? I didn't know it was in this. I hadn't had a chance. I hadn't had a chance I grabbed 2 of them and I took them to the house, but I hadn't had a chance to look at them. Thank you.
There you are.
That's very nice of you.
Yeah. Well, you're doing a lot of great work. I'm glad your Patreon account is up and people can contribute to you, because you get what you're doing is amazing. I mean, 3 people a day frequently. I mean, I think a lot of people out there, sometimes we take you for granted. We're just like, oh, you watch Todd? Oh, yeah, Todd's on. Let's see who's got on. It's great what you do for us.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much. So, but it's a great what y'all are doing, because this is the new energy being anchored into the back onto the planet. Divine union frequency is sometimes it looks like a couple, a male and a female. Sometimes it's a same-sex couple. Sometimes it's an androgynous being. Sometimes it's 2 brothers, which I've ran into recently.
Sure.
Very good friends of ours, collaborators of ours, have the same frequency that you guys have and that Morgan and I have. So this is very important. It's under the radar. It's not like something that's being talked about a lot. And there's a lot of different components to it, such as, it's always perfect, right? Fluffy, love, and light.
Yeah, sure.
It's always smooth sailing, perfect. We were talking about that, and I just want to say one thing. You talk about couples and the direction sometimes those conversations go. I just want to say, I did not know that when I finally found a relationship that I'd wanted but didn't know it was possible, that checked so many boxes and boxes I didn't even know existed. What I didn't know was that it was going to lead me back to myself, to self-love.
Yeah.
That's been one of the major miracles of divine union, which is it's counterintuitive. You think, it's just going to be all about that person and the 2 people, the energy is just going to go float off.
Yeah.
But no, because I think the difference between, say, a 3D relationship and a 5D relationship, the 3D relationship, they don't know that there's something else or they don't have the tools, for instance, to step outside and resolve conflicts sometimes.
Yeah.
5D, I see it as more compressed, and anything that's inside that doesn't belong is going to get pushed out. So
squeezed
squeezed
purged.
out, purged.
So, so like in talking to y'all last night, I picked up that Maria has been connected, downloading stuff along the lines of a lot of feminine that I've talked to around the world, like Morgan, for years and years. I didn't ask you specifically, but has it been going on?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, when I think about it, it's been happening all my life.
Yeah.
I've always worked at resolving issues. Like even as a little kid, it was like I was almost like balancing and clearing as I was going along, and a very nurturing energy. I facilitated and held space for others. So I was like working my way up to, where we are now.
Right.
And recently it's been just more clear to me how the divine feminine energy, how I work with the divine feminine energy and the divine masculine energy. And it has everything to do with our relationship too. And what the new energy that's that's available now for the collective. And the relationship has really serves like Scott said, to help ourselves, to bring ourselves closer in to ourselves, to self-love, and to ultimately, it's like a personal love story, like bringing this space of balance and love and union with your own divine masculine and your own divine feminine, so that they could have that sacred dance, and then you could really resolve conflict within yourself when you see these 2 representations within yourself and see how they're working together.
Yeah.
So that's something that we have been working on a lot recently, and we have seen how it has developed in our relationship, and the benefit of the relationship for that. And how if the relationship is to continue, it, like you said, whatever stuff needs to come out. Otherwise, the relationship, it could just serve its purpose, and then that could be the end of it. But that's really clear to both of us, so we continue to move.
There's been this kind of growth, and it's like, okay, we got there, and she was maybe instrumental in that phase, and that helped me get here, and then I helped her get here. So the people we are is not just because of one thing or 2 things. It was that progression. and work
Yeah.
the work.
Were you downloading information on divine union and the role of divine feminine or mother goddess energy, or so? Because like some of the women I've talked to, such as Morgan, they were downloading this information in regard to this dance that you're talking about, like that they would have a specific role in it before you ever met Scott. Did any of that ever come in?
It wasn't clear to me before I met Scott. No, I in fact never really thought about divine feminine, divine masculine, or anything like that. I just thought about, healing, and I was going more of like integrating the shadow, healing the shadow, doing the inner child work. But the divine masculine, divine feminine, this is something that has been new, or that I've been working on more recently in the last like year or two. So no, not before, not consciously.
So it all came into play on that night.
It did.
Yeah.
It like really sparked it all up.
When she talked about combining the sacred masculine, the sacred feminine inside of us, I found it very helpful, because before she started this conversation, I didn't have that kind of conversation with myself.
Right.
Now, it's when we want to know ourselves. You talked about that last night, about the importance of knowing ourselves, and having that sort of as an exercise to ask myself what I'm missing, what I feel I'm lacking on the feminine side or the masculine side is very helpful. It's like, oh yeah, I feel something a little wanting there, a little lacking. Let me look at that. Let me follow that. Let me see what needs to be healed. How I need to shore that up. Because if it's there, if it's wanting, lacking, she's going to see it. She's going to feel it, and it's not going to feel good. She's going to go, I don't want to play in that. I don't want to deal with that. Can you go ahead and handle that? I'll hold space, but I'm not going to hold your hand, which is very interesting. I didn't like to hear that at first, in so many words. I wanted my hand held. I wanted my head stroked, whatever. And but that was the most helpful thing she could have done.
Absolutely.
And now I provide that for her as well in that kind of space.
Yeah, works both ways.
Yes.
Doesn't it? It doesn't. But you can't do it. You can't hold that space until it's been held for you. That's what I experienced.
It was helpful,
Like
for sure.
when she held the line, I reacted the same way. I'm sure the first times I did it, I projected, in a loud way. But as time went on, then I was like, oh, I get it, and then I could do it.
Yes.
Like if that intent came towards me, I was telling you about it last night. I could just look at it and go, that's not my deal.
Yeah.
I'm going to go.
That's yours.
I'm going to go over here. Yeah, that's yours. That's not my deal.
Right.
But I found too that we don't even have to say it anymore. Like, I think she probably had to say it to me a lot, and then once I started making the transition, I might have said it a few times, but I don't have to say it. She doesn't have to say it.
When you guys have been together 5 years, we've been together 2 years. I've seen other couples on your show that have been interviewed that together for different times. It's always interesting to see what people are doing. I appreciate when you guys are able to talk about the hard parts, about what it really is to do the work, which I mean, there's a gloss over the whole idea of sacred union and that sort of thing. But the real work is, it's my stuff. It's my stuff from childhood. It's my stuff that still is playing a role in my life as an adult today.
Yeah.
Which most of the time we don't notice. We just sort of, that's who I am.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you could be better.
It doesn't change it. It doesn't change the dynamics of navigating through life or the ascension or whatever. It's just it intensifies, because it's never them. It's always me. It's never them. It's always me. So
exactly.
So you're in this situation or in this a relationship, partnership, and it's in a conscious admission by both parties that you're aware that it's never them. It's always me, which means that extracts the old patterns of communicating Mars and Venus.
Yeah.
Women are crazy, men are stupid.
Right.
That whole thing goes away. All the stereotypes go away. What I found is that it still had a kind of a graduated, kind of ascension. There was like stair steps.
Sure.
Like you would go up a couple of steps and then you might fall back into a conflict or an argument, and some things would be said that were old school.
Yes.
And then you keep going. And you brought up that real quick too about some couples. You guys are 2 years, we're 5 years. one of the things I've noticed, even like you guys have a really strong connection. I just met a couple that I've worked with quite a bit and spent some time with here. They've been together like 2 years. They have a very strong connection. And I noticed certain things in these couples. And I don't think linear time really has relevance to it, but I have noticed that the longer that period is, the more fluid it seems to be. So, and I know in the quantum field that like my 5 years might be 5 months for somebody else, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that, you know, I was always told that on the journey of the soul or on the soul highway, you can't miss a step. And I think when you look at a divine partnership, a sacred union, it's the same way. Like there's no shortcuts. And it's really interesting because you can see the other person's blind spot and they can see yours. And how do you communicate that? I found that very challenging. How's it been for y'all?
Communicating, well, it's been messy and then a little bit cleaner sometimes and then messy, but we're okay with the messy too. We were talking about that this morning, that even, you know, we are physical, we're human, so when we go deep back into our programs, into our 3D old way of being, because it is so important to us. Like this is what we do all day, every day, to try to be conscious, to try to be aware, and to be centered, you know, so that when we're not, we feel it. We feel it with each other, we feel it in the relationship. So with you, like in the past, like when it was not so polished, it was like, okay, we gotta talk. Like there's this thing that keeps coming up, that there's something more profound, there's something deeper, and then we would explore it. Scott has been really open for the most part about exploring and going deep.
So have you.
And let's see what this is about and stuff like that, you know. Sure. So when we would work, so there would be awareness. We would be able to work through it enough to see, okay, what's at the root of whatever this issue that keeps coming up, or this pattern that keeps coming up. So there was awareness. That doesn't mean that it stopped.
Right.
You know, from showing up.
I would add that it helps to have an agreement in the beginning that we're going to have these kinds of talks.
Right.
Because she's got so much wisdom. She's bringing forward the divine feminine and her divine masculine. And there's been times, you mentioned if she sees a blind spot of mine, and she might say, have you ever thought of this? And I've actually said, you know, I would bring up resistance. I'd be like, what, you trying to change me? Is this a conversation? So I wanted a little, we just need to establish that we're going to have these talks. But first I had to establish, she doesn't come up with stuff from the ego. She's not coming up with things that are meant to mess with me or change me. It's just, maybe it's that little thing, the plank, you know, what they say, the plank in the eye or the splinter in the eye. She sees things, and it would be very helpful to me and both of us if I just check it out, try it on, see what happens.
It's
be open.
Yeah, it is challenging though, because we talked about it last night. She goes first. She, being the feminine energy, goes first, which kind of aligns with the gender's incarnation. But that still works. The whole blind spot things worked. And what I noticed was, you're right. Like the way she delivered the message to you is how Morgan would deliver it to me, right? Now, I started to notice blind spots, okay, with more confidence. Because at first, I was too shadowed to decipher, am I seeing this or am I seeing that? But there were certain things that I noticed going back 5 years ago that would show themselves, right? And so as time went on, I was like, okay, now I know I'm right. You know, like this has happened and happened and happened. It's not a big deal. It's just a pattern. So it's part of the evolution. But I realized that I could not communicate to her in the way she communicated to me, because she was coming from a human female journey, as I was coming from a male journey. And we're talking at the human level now, because even though we're getting it up here, now I've got to convey it to her or her to me. But I realized that I could not deliver the message the way she did to me.
Okay.
So I had to come up with a different way to do it. And that's just how it worked for me. But it made sense to me because how could a woman's perception be the same as a man's? You know, if we were raised in the Mars-Venus atmosphere where men are stupid and women are crazy, you know.
Men can't show emotions.
Yeah, so it's a different kind of thing. So what I did was I borrowed a page from what she showed me, which was like, let's say that the woman had women's intuition, right? And that which meant that the men had less. Which
That's right.
So let's just put it that way for an analogy or a metaphor. So she was already tapped in up here, so she dealt with a lot of stuff up here. I was more used to dealing with the stuff down here, and at the human level, which meant more projection, more lower chakra, lower vibrational, less intuitive. So I kind of like going up here. You know what I mean? She had to explain things to me at the human level that I would understand,
Yes.
because I don't know this language, right? And then I went up here, which meant I got quieter. And if I saw something, I could deal with it up here, which really meant it was not her, it was me. Which means that I had to integrate whatever I was seeing, and then you start to see the change outside yourself, which is cool.
And Bashar has said, how empowering is it if you know that everything that happens for your highest and best good? If you choose that as a perspective on your life, and I know in the moment some things happen, it doesn't seem that way, except in hindsight, except with time and wisdom. But when you have that kind of empowerment, then it's like, oh, that's right. And this is my universe. This is my world. You're in my world. Thanks for being there with it.
Right on.
Yeah. And she already knows. So it's my choice how things occur to me. And yeah, occasionally I still get butthurt over something. Or I'll take something offensive. And I just interviewed somebody myself for the magazine recently who reminded me, actually, the 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz can be used for a relationship.
Yeah, don't take it personal.
Don't take it personal is the big one. Impeccable with your word. Make sure what you say is who you are and what you mean. And if you're on fire and you feel you are that emotion of anger before you've had a chance to step out of it, don't speak.
Yeah, shut the F up.
Yes.
That's the best one.
Yeah.
That's the
Shut the F up. That's one of the best ones.
I'd like to hear what. Okay, so okay, wait a minute. So let me frame it up. So I got to the point where I was like this. Okay, I'm tired of discussing either between each other or within my own head who did what, who started it, who projected,
Whose fault is it?
Did I project? You know, I'm like, this is like too complicated. You know, it's like it's too much. So,
Right.
Because you've got these 4 aspects, you've got the divine feminine, divine masculine, the human female, and the human masculine, or say the human, because it could be same sex or whatever, right?
Yep.
So I was like, okay, wait a minute. So let's just say, theoretically, that Morgan projects on me. What I came away with was, it doesn't matter whether she did or she didn't.
Right.
What matters is how I feel. How I feel is not going to be rectified or integrated if I assign blame.
Right.
So the whole point is, the question is not whether she projected or not. The question is, am I going to continue to externalize this, or am I going to take it inside of myself and bring that level of discomfort to alignment and go about my day? So I was like, oh, I can do that. And I said, well, what does that look like? And the answer I got was, shut the F up. Don't say anything if you think you know. Don't say anything if you don't think you know. If you just keep your mouth shut and let it sit, it's going to probably be okay.
Agreed.
You know? So that was what happened for me. Do you guys ever go through that?
Yes, yes, and I like the way that you framed it. So you do have that's the power of choice. You have the choice, no matter if it's with Morgan or in any situation, in any conversation, no matter what anybody brings to the table, any perspective. You have the choice, and that's where the power lies and the freedom lies, to bring in the higher perspective all the time. And to me, that dissolves some of that other stuff, because we have spent in the idea of past lives many lifetimes trying to get better, to change our behavior to this. And at some point, I believe we just have to choose. we don't have to continue to explore, or what is it,
Beat a dead horse.
Yeah, it's like, okay, once you know enough,
Yeah.
and then you can just choose something different and transcend from that space, that you were occupying, and be like, okay, now I'm here. And that absolutely helps the what's happening within the relationship. That helps the other person. It helps me whenever Scott has held that higher perspective. I feel it. I know what's happening. And as much as I'm like, oh, but I still, I can choose, because I know what that is.
Yeah.
And there's no solving that.
Yeah.
That's just a blame game, like you said. So then I have the choice now, if he's holding that, to rise, to rise have my vibration rise, and then match that.
Yeah.
I just think any two people in any kind of relationship that have challenges, that want to take the next level, I just think, I don't know if they got to go away somewhere for the weekend, or just get to a park, get to nature, and just say, I want to up level with you. I want to go to the next level. And to do that, I know I have to give up some stuff. I have to give up protecting myself. I have to give up, I have some areas of shame in me, some things from childhood, something happened to me, or I did something, or that I'm ashamed of, and that still kind of comes up for me and pisses me off, or activates me in ways that aren't good. And I just want to have a relationship where we can just share all that, and I'll go first. I'll tell on myself. I'm going to be honest about where I've been a jerk, or where I've didn't let you express yourself or something, and open that up and have those kinds of talks. And that's another level that is available to anyone. You just have to sort of set that intention and do it. And then, of course, it's like, I think Ernest Hemingway said, to be a great writer, he said, all you do is open up a vein. And you just bleed onto the page, metaphorically speaking. And I think the same thing in a great relationship. I think it's the same thing. And just be honest, and just have that level of trust, establish that. Then from then on, you can have so many conversations where instead of fights. I mean, we've had fewer fights because of that, because we have that. And every week we seem to up level. And that's, even recently, it's been great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's this is good conversation. So I had it in my head. With what y'all were talking about.
It's an interesting telling on yourself, right? It's a fascinating thing, and it feels very free, especially when you feel the trust that the person will hold that space. They won't judge you. They won't mock you. Go ahead.
No.
Okay.
What we're talking about right now is reminding me of how you were saying earlier, how you've noticed, like, this is a process. Like, there's like an up leveling, and then there's like an integration, up leveling and integration. And I think this is part of the same thing with us in our individual experiences. Is the relationship as a tool is great and wonderful, because we still have all these programs running, all these beliefs running, within our subconscious, that this sort of exchange helps bring them up and out of us, so that we could, I think we're preparing ourselves just for truly embodying the higher perspective all the time. Yeah. So, including, I lost my thought. But
well, and it goes for when you get triggered and something happens. Now that may not be the time to have the conversation when one or both are triggered. You may want to just put it off, just hold space, shut your mouth, go away for a while, let things calm down, and then say, come back to it with that old thing of, I just want to share something how I felt. Had nothing to do with you. This is how I felt. I just want to share it.
Yeah, that was a big one that she introduced to me. Was, let me tell you what my experience was.
Yes.
Which, at first, it was because we were in an old pattern where the masculine or the wounded masculine's dominating the conversation. Then it became
wounded masculine dominates the conversation in the world today in a lot of ways, doesn't it?
I mean, yeah, and again, it's not always it doesn't always align with the physical gender.
True,
but because it could work both ways. But most of the time it was me. But what I'm trying to say is, and then I started to take it in, like, oh, okay, so that was your experience. That's the way you think. Because I think this was a big part of it is Mars, Venus. We cannot speak rationally to someone in these transitioning waters, that we're that close to, because we have no idea what it was like to walk in her shoes or his shoes. And as long as we feel like we do, we're full of shit. Okay, so we're gonna stagnate and we're gonna flatline. I think a lot of the understanding came from, or comes from, let me tell you what my experience is, which he introduced to me. And then also, I think it comes from, I guess, etherically, like through the merging of the chakras, sacred sexuality, where you're not instructed or told, this was her journey, this is what the female went through, and it's more than just reading about it. This is an actual absorption or opening of code, opening of Akashic history within your own field, where you actually go, oh, wow, and you become her, which is what's happened to me recently. Like even last night, it was like that. When I was so tired, we lay down, put our hands together, I just turned to my side. I looked at her. Now, it's dark. So when I say I looked at her, I'm looking at her light body. And because I really can't see her body, her physical body, maybe just a little bit. I'm too tired. If I don't have these reading glasses on, I can't see anyway. So I looked at her, and I actually could see her masculine. I didn't ask to see her masculine. I just looked at her, and I could see her masculine. I could see her field. I could see stuff working out in the masculine. I don't want to say distortions, but misalignments or whatever. We're all dealing with it. And so I'm laying on my side, and I'm now my feminine. So I put my hand here and just did some things. And again, it wasn't like somebody said, oh, do this, do that, do this. It just, I did some things, and it felt very feminine from my core, doing some type of activations or clearings or alignments, with my masculine, which that is me.
Or your feminine.
Yeah, well,
You're
it's
feminine
my
with
feminine.
Morgan's masculine.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like that she is the physical incarnation of my internal divine union, right? So even though she's feminine in the body, and this is just not a coincidence. This is what happened after spending dinner with y'all, and being, tired and delirious. But that's exactly what happened, and I was totally comfortable with it. I wasn't like going, oh wow, this is trippy, because that's what's happened the last few times. I'll be like, oh my God, I actually have breast and a yoni, and why this is trippy, and oh my God, look at her, she's got what she's got, and but last night was different. Last night it was just like, I don't even know how to explain it, but the way I just said it, and these are the kind of things I think where you start to understand, or maybe reawaken the like I said, the opposite gender's history and path and journey.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still investigating the sacred feminine part of me through my years, and what happened to it, because we're not taught to think that way, let alone our emotions, let alone like that. So it's a great exercise to do. It's doing the work, and it's wonderful when we do it.
What you described right now was so beautiful, right? Because you got the opportunity to hold space through your divine feminine and assist Morgan in some way, right? Some magical way. And I think these experiences that we have more and more, they're not meant to be rationalized. No. Obviously, there's so much that happens that we're not aware of, but they're fun and they're exciting, and they feel good, and they allow us to be more of who we are. And I think that's the only thing that really matters. Yeah,
it's a different language, and that's a great point that you bring up. So like if she was here right now, I didn't talk to her about it. Nothing was said. Okay? So she might say, I don't remember any of that. I didn't get any of that. Or she might say, here's how it went down for me, which if you kind of look at it, it'll be kind of the same thing. What's important to me is that it happened for me. I know what I saw. Now, It may have been that I was working out my own distorted masculine stuff. She was my projection.
That's right.
It may be that that it was her. I don't know how that works. I mean, there's only one. You're a couple. There's her. There's me. There's one. But we're all one. So it's is everything my creation? But so you're right. It doesn't matter. And there is less talk. I mean, I know that like when we put our hands together at night, we used to wake up and go, you know what happened last night? And of course, sometimes you would, if you have apparitions or whatever, you do, there is kind of some, validation by discussing it. But most of it is telepathic. It's become more mutual. And I guess the reason I'm bringing this up is because what you said earlier about some of these couples, 2 years, 5 years, and so on, that this is where it goes. Like, and I think it's so important what you said. You don't have to rationalize it. You don't have to understand it. In fact, you can kind of muddy the waters if you sit there and try to figure it out, or get into a conversation of, well, I didn't get that.
Right.
You're not right. Or I say it about you. It becomes a kind of a separation frequency as opposed to unity frequency.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead.
Absolutely. And so, like, your experience, what you felt happened and took place, that is what happened and took place. And I feel it's really important for us to own that, because I told Scott at some point years ago, I was like, oh my gosh, there are no they're not, this is the way you do it, this is the way you do it. I'm like, these are all belief systems, whether it's older modalities or Eastern philosophy or whatever. I said, what's important is that you believe it. That's where the importance lies, and for any tool, really, for any tool. So what I feel is important is that you own that's your truth and that's what happened, because then I feel like that opens more doors that lead you more and more into the experiences of you owning your power and of you being the creator of your reality. So it's an opportunity for you to say, yes, this is true. And then more of that opens up, and we don't need anyone's validation.
No.
See that?
Yeah. I was going to say last night is a good example. Last night y'all asked a couple of questions and I answered. And then she said, let me tell you how it really went down. And
I was being the interviewer last night.
And I told her, I said, that's not what happened. Now, she can believe that's what happened. And I know what happened. My knowing of what happened isn't anyone's truth beyond myself. Now, she sees it, she tells the story a different way. I actually think it's the same story being told.
Sure. 2
different ways. But to your point, I think that's the basis of it, because if I'm in a relationship and I think, to be honest with you, in the beginning, in the typical sacred union frequency, the typical one, and when I say typical, I mean like maybe 80% or maybe even 70%, which is a romantic involvement between a man and a woman, okay? That would the other ones fit the same frequency, they just have different faces, but this is what I'll use as an example. In that example, the masculine energy is the one falling on the sword, and rightfully so in the beginning, because he's having to eat more humble pie because he's been more blinded. He didn't have the intuition she had, and so on. But at some point, it starts to level off, and I think that if you're going to have any type of continuity, any type of perpetuity to the relationship, then it becomes a situation like you're talking about. I can stand in my truth. You can stand in your truth. We can experience the same thing.
Yeah.
We have 2 different takes on it, and it does not become a point of conflict or something divisive.
As long as we don't try to convince the other person our story's more right.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
You just honor each other's version of whatever took place, and then you move on.
And that's the thing. Well, if you probably noticed, she's very good at empowering others. She's very good at giving permission slips, if you will. And a year ago, even, I wouldn't have done something that we just did. When we were here a little early, we're parked across the street at the Whole Foods under a tree. And we'll listen to a guided meditation. We'll just pick one. And this time we wanted some holy fire, Usui, Reiki, and just the sound bowl. And we were sitting there. And then I opened my eyes a little early at one point, and I saw the leaves, different trees out there on the boulevard. And they were moving beautifully, and I just had a moment with those trees, with the leaves and branches, and I said to myself, anytime I want to, I can bring healing Reiki to me through them, or anything I want, anytime. It's my world, it's my reality, I can do what I want. And this is what I've learned that a lot of the spiritual people do when they're manifesting and creating and being mystical. It's imagination. Imagination meets something halfway. and you know this better because you've had a lot of manifestations, lots of apparitions, and I've had a few. I've done some channeling. I've channeled a dragon. So, and that just requires a little surrendering and letting go and taking that inspiration that Maria's real good at, which is do it. Talk to the trees. Talk to nature. Make this world what you want. It's your life. We're all just living in your life, in your reality.
That's true.
So,
imagination's key.
It's the door. To me, it's the door. Your agreement to explore the unknown, to explore something bigger, to allow something greater to come through you. And I was saying that I realized that these were all just belief systems, and it really felt good. It felt a little shaky and scary because it was like, a false sense of security. Like, I want to have something that I could say, this is the truth. But when you let that go, you step into something that's so much bigger and so much more powerful and so much more free. So it's whatever I choose to invest my belief system in, but in knowing that it is a tool, not that it is the absolute truth for myself or for anybody. But the more I believe it, the more I strengthen that, and I work on making that really something that it's second nature to me. The faster and the stronger that it is, whatever it is.
And that was a great conversation starter, because then we started talking about what are some beliefs we have that are sort of security blankets that kind of feel good in the short term, but in the long term don't serve us, and would be good to let go of.
That's a very good point, because I think what's happening right now, I'm observing this. I haven't even discussed it with Morgan, but I am. And that is that we're continuing to elevate, and there's certain, there's certain things that we hold on to from the old paradigm in terms of what role the man plays and what role the woman plays. And I can think of just a couple of examples that I probably better not say because I'll probably get in trouble.
Well, we have a couple things we like. I take out the garbage. That's fine.
Well, okay, so let's use that as an example.
Okay.
So that's understandable. If we want to hold on to, I like to open doors, for ladies, not just my lady, but I'm just that way. But let's say that it's even something like that. Okay, let's say that every time I go to the car, I open the door for her, which I don't anymore.
Okay.
But if I go through a department store, or go into the grocery store, I'll open the door. Or even if I go to the house. Last night I opened the door, I swing the door open and let her go before me. Is that a habit? Is that manners? Is that Southern etiquette? I don't know. But the thing is that I guess what I'm trying to say is that it's a paradox. So you have, I want to do that, and then you have, I do this and I don't even know why I do it. So there's this. So if continuing to do it, which I believe I am in that example, opening these doors because it's something I want to do. Okay?
I want to do that generally too. And the thing is, there's some games we play, I'm going to say, because we like to, and it has to do with the masculine and the feminine. And at a certain level, a core level, I think, the feminine we were talking about is, creation, and just no less than creation. And the male energy, the masculine energy, can be protective, could be provide the container for which the creativity, the feminine can happen. That can happen inside of all of us. So whenever if I'm creating a project for the magazine or something, there's my masculine elements there, and there's the feminine elements. But in the outside world, with Maria, I do like to provide them, and she is a woman, and she has female reproductive organs and all. And I think the men of the world, I think it's okay for us to do those things because the women have more.
But this is where we get.
Okay.
This is where we get into the rationalization. I find that men do this more than women. They build these parameters that is basically validating their existence. I've seen it happen a lot in the conversations I've had with men in regard to sacred sexuality, in regard to temporary celibacy within themselves in the relationship, no thrusting during intercourse versus just having penetration and holding that position, doing things that we've not done before. And I'm only using that as an example because this is what we do, because this is what I do. All right. But I'm getting to the point now where what you said earlier. I'm getting tired of beating the dead horse, and the dead horse is that the last point of separation is going to be the gender, and we're now walking into an androgynous field, and so how much longer do we need to talk about this stuff, and how much longer is the universal energy going to allow us to continue to hold on to what we're comfortable with? Oh, I want him to open the door. I want him to take out the trash. What happens if the trash doesn't get taken out? Occasionally.
Sure.
So is there a blame assessed? Is there an energy of projection? Go back to, I'm going to ask you about this because imagination is another energetic, it's the same thing. You know, Morgan always says a copy is a copy is a copy. So imagination is paradoxical to me because, number one, imagination to me is like the root of creativity. It's like, where can I go with this? And we can apply that to anything. But the other side of it is the old saying, don't let your imagination run wild. So this is these loops. Oh, she's doing this. She thinks that. He's doing this. Why did he do this? He's like this. She's like that. These are the loops, I think, that are starting to fade. They're not being supported, but we still can perpetuate them by our own ego or our own trauma or shadow. And I feel like it's kind of like going away. And I feel like all of this stuff is kind of leveling off and aligning because we don't have to talk about it anymore or as much because so much is being transferred telepathically and code being exchanged. What do you think?
So, imagination, well, I haven't used imagination in that way for a while now because, when I think of imagination now, I think of it opening, it's like an opening a door, but I'm always guided by my heart. Like it feels like I never leave my heart when I use the imagination, when I explore, when I use that as a tool to bring in energy from wherever I want to, from the quantum field. So I don't do that anymore that you described. That's taken a lot of work, and it's taken the realization
you're talking about the loops,
the looping, and they're like, oh, why did he do this?
Yeah.
Why did that?
No, I agree with you on that. I just wanted to see what, like, from the woman's point of view or her perspective from her journey. I mean, I guess let me rephrase it. Do you feel like that? And I know it was a lot of work. Believe me.
Yes, I know you.
Because you start to realize, oh wait, that's me doing that. Because we are quantum, which means that we're going to observe what we send back out from the observation, or whatever. But like, do you think it's because it's becoming more telepathic and that the code's being exchanged through sacred sexuality and this is sacred sexuality? Don't get me wrong. Just the holding hands or there's less words needed.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's happening hand in hand. We're like leveling up, and the words, to me sometimes they're just. They could get you in a loop sometimes.
They
traps.
Yeah, it's like there's enough complication out there, with everything that we've had to go through from what we went through to, let's say, post 2012 up to 2019. Let's just say that we had Yogi Guru templates which were effective and we needed them. Maybe it might be books or instruction or practitioners that you went back to see every month, and now it's kind of moved into self-empowerment. And it's just
self-healing.
Yeah, well, like we're our own doctor, physician heal thyself. I mean, everything is an inside job. So I guess what I was trying to go with it is that I feel what's happening is we don't even have to say anything. Like you can see something. Like I'll give you an example. Like in the Soulgy field, we've had some people come together and there's not been instruction. It's all been really organic. And you see something in the field and you go, oh, that's kind of, strange, or that doesn't look right. And I say, you know what? It may not in this moment, but I don't think anything has to be said. I think it's actually going to come into alignment without being wordy about it. Right. I guess that's what I was getting at, and what I was asking you is, do you think that's part? Did that reality assist you in, fading out those loops of your imagination runs wild?
Absolutely. So, like, even this conversation, like, if I think too early about anything that you're saying, I actually really lose it. I find that I have to let just myself speak in the moment, and let whatever is going to flow, whatever's going to come through.
Yeah.
So, I think it happens naturally.
Yeah.
And back to what you said about the healing, or if we at some point just choose, you said something like that, or I think that we get the whole benefit and the tool of the relationship, and of helping the relationship bring out things that we're no longer choosing,
Right.
and therefore bringing coming home to ourselves. The choosing part, I think that has to go hand in hand. I think that a lot of times, sometimes, and everything is divine and perfect as it is, but sometimes we spend more time in a given phase, because we get stuck in this idea of, I need to heal this, or I need to let me pull from childhood what it is that happened. I've had it where my higher self told me, what else do you want me to make up? What other story do you want me to create for you, to give you material so you could pretend that you have to heal something? Yes. So what I've been told is that at some point it's just a choice.
I agree with that.
It's a choice, and that's transcendence.
And so you're a practitioner, right?
I am.
So it's kind of, and I'm not, but I mean, I've worked with people before. Of course, Morgan is, but like there's a dynamic where the client will come in and have a conversation, or I'll just use myself. A friend of mine will approach me. They'll say, "Here's the situation. We'll work together," and I'll say, "Hey, okay, da da da," and then they will come up with the admission. "Oh, I'm this, or I'm that, or this is what it is." Boom, it's done. But then the next time you see them, they come back with the same thing, and then they come back with the same thing, and then by that point, I'll hit them between the eyes and say, "Look, don't talk to me about this anymore. You're the one. You know what it is. Take care of that shit. Get off the pot." Right. And so I guess that's what I'm saying. What I'm hearing from you, something seems to have changed. I'm a total believer in 0 point. Morgan is a 0 point oracle.
Right.
And I think it's necessary. I still utilize these types of techniques, but there's something about the field now that seems to be different, and I think it has a lot to do with two things you talked about: belief and choice, or maybe you said the belief, but belief and choice. Like my belief is this is my experience. Like we were talking about a minute ago, hers was this is the way she saw it. I'm okay with that. I'm going to stand in my field, and I'm going to continue to march down the road. I can do the same thing by saying, "Hey, I've seen this before. I don't want to do that anymore.
Right.
I love you. Thank you for presenting yourself to me over and over again. We had a conversation before. I'm talking to the energy. We have it again. Now I'm going to not go on. I choose not to go there." So for me, it's been like, okay, well then, if you're not going to go there, where are you going to go? And now I focus on that, where there is no impediment.
And what's helpful to me when I do that is going to 5D, going to my higher self. In 5D, my higher self, there is no pain. There's no need even to forgive.
That's true.
It's love. So I choose when I want to go to childhood and resolve something. And then I choose also when to say, you know what, I just got to get off this thing. I'm just having a pity party here. And
you're beating a dead horse, and you're the horse.
There you go.
And sometimes that choice, though, we've already said this. That choice sometimes it's not just made because we're at home thinking, what am I going to work on today? It's made because there's such discomfort in the experience that's being lived through that it's like, oh, I'm choosing. You don't have to, but I'm going to choose now to change because I don't want this to come up.
Exactly. Now. Is okay. I want to bring up, she brought up something today, and she was just talking about the idea of what you just said about, well, I'm not going to decide what I'm going to work on today. Actually, you do that sometimes. She's better at than I am, and I'm inspired by her, say, you know what beliefs, what things are going on that are not serving me? Let me get ahead of that.
That's what Morgan does.
Yeah.
She does the same thing. So
and it's great.
They seem to be more, well, they're the receiver, right? And we're the projector. So they're like, she's the receiver, and there's the mix, and then radiance is put out. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So even if it's not a conscious conversation, and it's just the etherical, coding that she's sharing with you, you somehow are going to Yeah, that's what we do.
And that's the God's eye view, and it's a great view to take, to just look at the story. And as a writer also, I look at the story of things like, oh, okay, because I know anything that happens is divinely orchestrated, but also it's never just one reason. There's never just one or two reasons something happens.
Yeah, there's always multiple purposes, multiple meanings. So
it's always great trying to see from that point of view.
Yeah.
You know, I want to say something about everything that we're all doing, because I find it really helpful sometimes just to collapse all realities and know that everything is just a choice and there's no real purpose for anything except experience, and to figure out how to enjoy.
Well, not to over attach. Not to over attach.
Yeah.
Purpose, like I've had to do that with Sology. Now,
sure,
and so there's like a part of you, like with the union, there's like part of you, like you were asking me last night, when did you know Morgan, you know, this, or when did you know it was her? And you don't know. You really don't know. You don't know anything. All you know is what's going on right now. But like Sology is an example, there's a part of me that knows, just like I knew about her. It's just part of me. It's just, but I've had to let go of launching a network or launching a website.
Because the time wasn't there yet.
So it's like, if I say I'm a whatever, you know, like I'm a rapper, I'm a conscious rapper, and I just won't let go of that identity. This is where we're at now. It's going to be taken, let go, or be dragged.
Yes.
And the same goes for any belief system. That's what I was going to conclude with, what you were talking about, in terms of like just this transition. I believe we're building the new template of divine sacred union, and many other templates. I don't believe we're going back to the original blueprint. I believe we're expanding what we came in with. So there's this human element involved, which has emotion, and it's like the grittiest, thickest, densest, slowest, quicksandish field to do it in, and I'm starting to see like phenomenal results. Like I'm starting to see magic and alchemy in all aspects, not just in my life, but in others, in synchronicities, meeting with people at the right time, picking up code, and going back to what you said, is it's less wordy. There's less judgment. There's less conversation. There's like, if somebody says something, you just don't say anything, and then they just kind of sit in what they said. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's really fascinating, and it's moving really fast.
People who have died and come back, people who've had near-death experiences, a lot of times what they'll come back and say is, wow, that was a rush. Oh my gosh, I didn't say I love you enough. I didn't express myself enough, but that was a ride. Whoa, can I get back on it? And sometimes when we're in the pain of it, it doesn't feel fun. It doesn't feel like a ride. But later on, when you can distance yourself, we even said last night, okay, we're not going to apologize in a big sense. I mean, we've made a little apologies here or there, but in a big sense for being human and feeling certain things and having little, petty fights over certain things. We're like, that's a part of it. And it's great to be distanced enough from it to laugh at it and go, that was fun. That was kind of, I don't want to live in that, that dynamic. And I'm glad we're separated from that. But it's okay to get to that point where you can even say that. Wow, it's a good laugh.
It's a good laugh. It really is. That's part of it.
Yeah.
So, since you're outnumbered, do you want to have the concluding comment?
So let me see. What I'd like to share as a concluding comment is that
outnumbered. You have a sacred feminine. I have a sacred feminine. She does. She has sacred masculine. I know you. We create all these layers, right, from different perspectives, and all these layers are awesome. They're journeys. They're like going on, challenges, facing challenges, overcoming them. But those layers, we don't. Anytime that we choose to, we can choose to recognize that those layers are not real,
and the only thing that is there then is just to choose whatever you want.
Yeah.
So like my higher self has told me, you humans like create so many layers,
Yeah.
and the experience of peeling the layers just so you can do what you want to do.
Yeah.
Because that's all we're moving
like
towards,
a
the idea of
yeah.
doing whatever we want to do without it having to be validated or the right thing to do or whatever. So it's just freedom.
Yeah.
So I like to conclude with that, because as fun as everything is, at any given moment we can just disconnect from the idea of anything being required or necessary, just to be free,
Yeah.
just to choose what makes you happy.
Yeah, true. Very true.
Beautiful.
Get out of our own way.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
Okay, we got Susie Byler coming in. She's going to do a didgeridoo sound healing. A didgeridoo sound healing.
Mm-hmm.
Did you want to do anything with show the magazine or anything like that?
We did, but let's
We
show
did.
it
We
again.
can show it again.
Listen, everybody.
Posted the link. On
Thank you. RadianceMM.com.
Oh, where we at? So this is Radiance Magazine. These two individuals are the energy behind it. And we've been featured in it, which is very kind of him, both of them. And so this is what he did recently on the second page, which is really cool, since Sology doesn't have money for advertising. But yeah, it's a beautiful thing. It's kind of I like it because it's kind of counter to what's been going on the last 10 years or so, which is everything's virtual. So I love the idea that they put it out in print, and
It's online as well. We do video interviews and
You said that was Radio MM?
RadianceMM.com.
Okay, I posted RadianceMagazine.org.
hey, there's
That would be a different. That one works too.
Okay.
there's
Thanks.
Eric and Michelle.
Eric Rankin, Michelle
Yeah.
Anderson. Yeah.
So yeah, we had a little delay because we had problems this morning. Welcome Mercury or what is it?
Mars
retrograde.
Mars retrograde.
retrograde.
One planet's the other. Who knows? All right. So thank you so much for coming in.
Thank
Thank you, brother.
It's a
Thank
pleasure
you.
meeting you, and we'll see you the next time. Oh,
Awesome.
we're gonna cut this off and then come back on. So we're gonna cut this transmission and then we'll come back on with Susie, and that'll be a separate broadcast in about 10 minutes, something like that. Okay. Thank you. See ya.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.